I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. Hear that? All I have to do is think of you.
And I have peace of mind.
She's so much better than me.
I'm tired of looking around and wondering what I gotta do or who I'm supposed to be. I don't wanna be anything other than me.
We actually didn't put any of them in a room together. We cast them all independently of each other. But I find that I have a pretty good knack for casting. I think if you look at the history of the show, you find along the way that certain people are good together. I think that, for instance, James Lafferty and Bethany Galeotti as Nathan and Haley, that was a storyline we had planned to explore. But once we put them together on screen and saw the chemistry that they had, obviously we went a little heavier in that direction. So while we sort of hope for chemistry and we'll write a storyline and start putting people together, I think you find out pretty soon whether or not they have that, whatever that magical thing is. And as you said, you know, a lot of our cast members have it together.
Promettez-vous de vous montrer fidèle?
You know, we not only have a love triangle, we have a love rectangle now with Lucas and Peyton and Brooke and Lindsay. I think it's interesting for me to watch a guy like Lucas, who's at the moral center of the show, still be conflicted or less in tune with his romantic inclinations than maybe he should be. His feelings than young boys actually do in the real world. And yet, it frustrates the audience sometimes that he's not as intuitive as he should be. I think that makes for good drama. I think that it allows us to externalize a lot of affairs of the heart that are sort of internal and that guys really don't talk about. I think ultimately, though, the fans will see that he'll look into his heart, he'll decide what he wants. I think in the future with the show, he'll go in one direction, and I think it'll be that much more satisfying for the audience that he struggled. You know, she has the things that we as people think will make us happy. She has money, she has beauty, she has power with her company. She has success at a young age. But without love, is she ever going to be happy? Does she want a family? Will a child make her happier? Or is being sort of not alone, but being independent and doing things on her own and taking this journey by herself, is that enough? And for some people it is, but specifically, is it enough for Brooke? And my instincts are that it's not enough, that she would, having not had a good relationship with her parents, that she would prefer to have a family environment, that she would prefer to have love in her life in addition to all these other things. But that's all part of the journey, and I think what compels an audience to watch her. Dan is very compelling because there are moments of nobility for Dan amidst predominantly villainous ways. But the audience gets conflicted with Dan sometimes, and they genuinely want to forgive him, and they want to root for him, and they want to see him change, which speaks well of an audience, I think. I think they genuinely want to see someone right the ship and get their life back on track. But Dan has been so reprehensible that the audience also doesn't want to be a fool. Very interesting to me how an audience will forgive a character and will let reprehensible things fall if the character genuinely is remorseful and wants to change. With Dan, the question is it genuine?
C'est toi.
Quoi?
Celle que je veux à mes côtés le jour où je réalise mon rêve. C'est toi. C'est toi, Peyton.
No, I don't think it's ever too late if it's true love. I think the show has chosen to believe in true love. And has chosen to say that if you're meant to be with that person, ultimately, no matter what obstacles get in the way, you'll find your way, and you'll find your way to each other. And if Peyton is the one for Lucas and vice versa, I think it'll feel that much better that they did struggle and that they did have all of these obstacles together. You know, we don't have a lot of women writers in our writers' room. We have a lot of guys. And Joe Davola, who's my fellow executive producer, always says that we don't need a lot of women because I'm the biggest girl in the room. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. You know, it's interesting to me that you touched on something that may be a reason that the show is so successful, which is kind of a secret, but I'll share it with you. We let a lot of the male characters talk like women, and we let a lot of the female characters be like guys. And, you know, we have all these guys that are talking about their feelings. You know, Nathan is this NBA wannabe basketball athlete, and he's talking about his feelings with Lucas, which is never going to happen in the real world most of the time. But I think people watch the show and they wish that that the guys in their life were that handsome and that sweet and, you know, that kind and maybe that in touch with who they are in the ways that these guys are. And by the same token, the female characters, they get to have their own journeys in really substantial ways. They usually are the smartest characters in the piece. They're usually a step ahead of the guys, which is true in real life, of course. But it may be a reason that the show is successful is that that there's this model that really doesn't exist in the real world that often, and yet. Even though these characters struggle, they tend to work it out emotionally in ways that I only aspire to in my life. You know, what's great about writing these characters is you can write the moments that you wish you had the nobility or grace in your own life. I can give them to the characters fictionally because I haven't evolved that much in my own life. So maybe it's therapy for me.
Promettez-vous?
Non, Lucas.
C'est le moment que tout le monde attendait.
Je suis désolée, mais tu peux pas épouser Lindsay parce que je t'aime, Lucas. Je serai une mère formidable pour cet enfant. Je veux recommencer à y croire. Et je veux Lucas.
Tu as parlé à Peyton? Non. Alors, tu penses souvent à lui?
Chaque jour.
Vous ne vous définissez pas comme musicienne?
Non, mais ça fait très longtemps que je n'ai pas enregistré.
Bien. Et vous, Nathan? Quels sont vos meilleurs souvenirs? Les matchs de basket devant des milliers de spectateurs?
Pour moi? Ouais.